Hi, welcome to a channel that I call Trumpet Lessons HQ. Here I teach trumpet fundamentals, give you tips, demonstrations, and encouragement to help you become a better trumpet player faster. If that's something you need, then go ahead and press the subscribe button now. Hey guys, I'm going into the archives for you. The archives of my podcast called Behind the Note Podcast. It's live for you on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. But this month we've been talking about how to improve your endurance. And I remember this clip. This is a very good place to get some information. Our guest today is Terell Stafford. And go ahead and check the markers in the video timeline if you like to skip around or skip ahead into a specific topic. But this is too good to pass up, and I wanted to share this with you. I hope you enjoy it. I'll see you next time. Will you give us some tips for living well on the road? For example, how do you maintain your chops, and how do you manage rest, and do you get to even study for your personal growth? Give us some tips for living well on the road.
That's a great question. Well, the first thing, I do try to, I think clarity of mind is really important. However, a person chooses to achieve that. So that's pretty much why I try to go for a run, or I try to get on an elliptical, or I try to get out and do something physical to clear my mind. Because, that's really, in a lot of ways, we have to make room in our busy minds to grow. And the only way to do that is to clear it each day, however we choose to do so. So that would be one thing. And then the next thing, as far as maintenance on the road, it's kind of a dichotomy when people say you have to learn how to eat right on the road, because what you have to learn to do on the road is to eat well. Eating right and eating well, I thought were always synonymous, but it's not, because if you're eating well, not fast food and stuff like that, you can usually maintain a healthy living. Whereas, finding that perfect meal sometimes is just not really applicable when you're on the road, because you don't have as much flexibility. So I just say, just eating well, finding great places, as opposed to saying, I'm gonna, only eat tofu for the next month. I don't know how realistic that is, especially being in a place like Germany or even Italy, having the discipline to do that. But so eating well, I think, is really great. As far as chops are concerned, I've probably been doing the same routine for the past, I'm trying to think, maybe 25, 30 years. And so some people said doing the same routine is great because, I think it's great because every day that I do it, I see what I really need to work on. Other people said doing a routine, the same thing every day, is not great because your muscles are trained, and it's going to be they're going to learn how to respond to doing the same thing. But I haven't found that to be the case. So I do the same thing. I have a maintenance routine, I have a growth routine, and I do different routines depending on how much time I have and where I am on the horn. You can start to feel when you're on the road when you need to do certain things. You may need to do a really quiet routine one day, or you may need to do a routine that's based on bends, or a routine that's based on flexibility, or even a routine that's based on range building. So, and that's what I find when I do my basic 30 or 40 minute routine. It lets me know exactly the areas that I'm starting to be deficient in. So I think that's really important, finding some consistency, because what you find is when you travel, whether you have a 20-hour flight to get to Australia, or you have a 15-hour flight to get to Japan, when you get to these places, everything feels different. Sometimes your lips are more swollen depending how you sleep. And if you really start depending on your physical body, it could be nerve-wracking. So what I do is really try to keep my air flowing. I use a device every day called an Ultra Breathe, which is it's an incentive spirometer, which really helps. It really helps get breathing consistent, and I use that in addition to buzzing. And then my routine that I do just helps keep me in shape. And as far as growth is concerned, I think the growth part is the easiest part, especially when you're traveling with musicians that are like incredible. Even if you travel with musicians that aren't so incredible, there's always something to learn. always. So, traveling out on the road with someone, you hear them practicing, you hear what they're working on, you ask them what they're working on, they show you, and you go check it out. And then that just keeps you growing constantly. I was just past week, I was on the road with the Clayton brothers this past week, and Gerald Clayton was working on some stuff before the concert, and whether I ask him what he's working on or whether I put a mute into my horn and figure it out and then go home and shed on it, you're always around something that inspires you to keep growing and learning, or you should be at least. So that's kind of what I do to maintain on the road. Good exercise, eating well, really, really using my routine to measure my strengths, my weaknesses, what I need to do, what I don't need to be doing, et cetera, et cetera.
What do you use for your growth routine and your maintenance routine?
My maintenance routine is basically I do the Chicka's Flow studies, and I do an exercise from page 177 out of the Arvin's book. I play through Charlier, one of the Charliers, usually number 2. Well, I do the Goldman studies, number 1 from the Goldman studies. And then I usually do Clark 3 or 4, the whole study with the etude. And just from that, I can pretty much measure where I am. And then I go back and after I've kind of measured where I am, I practice the things that need the most help. As far as like a growth routine is when I'll bring certain etudes out on the road with me that I haven't played before, whether it be maybe it's something out of the Charlier book, maybe it's something out of a Russian etude book that Fielder had given me a while back, or it could be, I don't know, it could be the same, one of the same studies or etudes that I've been playing for a while, and I just decide, this section I never play great, so it's time for me just to take these 5 bars and practice them for the next hour. And usually doing something like that, you grow more ways than you really realize. And then, finding a tune and just shedding through that tune. Really shedding through it. Like, you can shed through it. Some people like to shed through it through the keys, and I think that's really beneficial, learning things through the keys. Certain tunes, I just want to learn how to play melodies over them. So learning how to play a melody, and that could lead to like writing a tune. That's where my writing comes from. If I learn a tune and I want to really learn how to play it, I'll write a melody over it, and that helps me to grow even more in that tune because I have to know the harmony to write a melody. So that would be my growth routine. My growth would be incorporating more jazz into my routine, where my main maintenance is just fundamentals.
If you enjoyed that interview and you would like to hear it in its entirety, the link to the full interview is in the description below. And if you want to continue your education, go ahead and click on another video, and I'll see you there.